Have you ever wondered why humans cannot seem to agree on life's biggest questions? Throughout history, different views about the meaning of life have led to everything from heated debates to full scale wars. Even today, our conflicts often stem from disagreeing about just not how we should live, but how others should live too. But here's an intriguing thought. What if there was a way to understand life that was as verifiable as basic mathematics, as clear as knowing that 2 plus 2 equals 4? This is exactly what the Danish spiritual writer Martinus proposes. But unlike many spiritual teachers, he didn't ask for blind faith. Instead, he offered something remarkable, a framework we can test through our own experiences and logical thinking, just like we can verify a mathematical equation. At the core of his work is a fascinating concept. Our life journey is eternal, and it necessarily contains both light and darkness, not as a flaw, but as an essential feature of being alive. Think about that for a moment. Could we truly be alive without experiencing both the light and the darkness? Before we dive deeper into this perspective, I'm curious. Do you think that darkness is a necessity for life to exist? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. So in this video, I'll walk you through Martinus' compelling arguments for why both light and darkness are not just inevitable, but essential part of our eternal journey. According to Martinus, we aren't just temporary beings who live and die. We are eternal living beings. Not just in some poetic sense, but literally. We have never started and we will never end. I know this sounds like a bold claim, so let me break down how Martinus explains this. He describes every living being as having three fundamental principles. First, there is the I. Think of it as the director of our entire being, the principle that sets the direction in our life. Secondly, we have the ability to create as living beings. This is what allows our I to actually do something. So the I is giving the direction, and the ability to create is actually creating it. But we need a third principle as well. That is where we get the created. That's the actual changes and experiences that we produce as living beings. Martinus states that this is the foundation of the living being. These three principles, Martinus argues, have always existed and will always exist. I dive much deeper into this in my other videos, which you'll find linked in the description below. So now you might be wondering, how can we be eternal if our physical bodies clearly aren't? This is where Martinus presents his insights on the spiritual world. Think of it as another dimension of existence in a way, where we continue our journey between our physical life. When we experience what we call death, that is our physical death, we are really just transitioning from the physical world to the spiritual world. After a period of time, we return to the physical world in a new life. This is what we know as reincarnation. Martinus states that we have lived many lives and that we'll live more before entering a more permanent life in a way in a higher spiritual world. But more about that in other videos. What's important to understand right now is that our existence isn't limited to just the physical world that we can see and touch, but also have a spiritual side which enable us to have this eternal life. So now let's explore the heart of Martinus' insight, the part of life itself. This isn't just some poetic metaphor, it's something fundamental to our existence as eternal beings. And here's the fascinating part. We cannot help but walk this path. It's not optional. So why is that? That's because life at its core is a constant change. If nothing ever changed it, would we really be alive? Martinus points out that complete stillness would mean absolute silence, absolutely no change. And that's clearly not what we experience as living beings. But what exactly is this path and how does it work? Imagine life as a constant exchange between our I and the world around us. This exchange creates all our experiences, and they fall into two distinct categories, light and darkness, or what we might call harmony and disharmony. To help us understand this, Martinus offers a brilliant analogy with water. You can picture pure water. It has no color of its own. This is like our eye in its pure form. It has no characteristics until it interacts with something else. Just as water remains invisible until it touches other materials, our eye only expresses itself through interaction with the rest of the world. So here's where it gets really interesting. Think about how water can exist in different states. Same water can be part of crystal clear drinking water or flow through a sewer. It's identical water, but our experiences of it is completely different. This is exactly what happens with our expression and experience in life. We can express and experience both light states of harmony and dark states of disharmony. Yet our fundamental essence, that will be the I, and as a living being, remains the same. It's only what we experience that keeps changing between harmony and disharmony. This is crucial to understand. Both states are equally natural and necessary. Just as water naturally flows through both pristine mountains and city sewers, our consciousness naturally experiences both light and darkness on its eternal journey. So that is the part of our life. It brings both of them, both the harmony, the disharmony, the light and the darkness. And I'll explain that a little bit more. Now we come to one of Martinus's most fascinating insights about our eternal journey, the principle of hunger and saturation. Remember how we talked about life being eternal, never beginning, never ending? Well, there's a pattern to this endless existence. Martinus reveals that we naturally alternate between periods of light and darkness. This isn't random. Both follows a precise patterns. I'll show it to you in this symbol that is created by Martinus. It is his main symbol. It shows a circular eternal life. So let me bring out one part of it. That is the created part of the symbol. That is where we find the harmony and disharmony. And we see it goes in a circle. We can also see there are some white and some violet on it. And that is the eye and the ability to create. What I will go into here is how the created actually work. How we go back and forth between harmony and disharmony, light and darkness. So if we start here in the orange area, this is where we are located right now. We are animals according to Martinus. And we are actually growing right now into what he calls the real human kingdom. Come back to that a little later. But the point here is that right now we are in a lot of disharmony. We see wars, we see fight with each other, we get angry, and we are on to each other basically. And what Martinus explains right now that we are actually developing out of that part. We are developing into what he called real human beings. That is what we see in the yellow part here. And when we go up to the green part, that is where we come to the higher spiritual worlds. This is also the blue part. And then we get into this indigo part. And let me just explain very briefly what is going on here. So imagine that we are these advanced animals we call humans right now, and at some point become what Martinus calls real human beings, and our world will be harmonious and it will be light. So we get rid of all the darkness and all the disharmony we have right now in the world. And we'll get into the higher spiritual worlds. And what he essentially says here, that we eventually will get saturated by this higher form of life. We will get saturated, we'll get tired, we'll get bored by the harmony. At some point we cannot experience more of it because all the contrast to it, all the disharmony is sort of used up in a way. So what he states is that at some point we will start living in our inner world. This is where the indigo part is. We will actually get into our inner world and we'll get to experience all our previous life in this circle. And it will be very pleasant in a way because everything is explained and we can see that everything has been very good. But at some point here, we will actually start longing for the contrast to the harmony. We start longing for the disharmony. So slowly we start to grow into the physical part of the world again, because that's where we can actually experience the disharmony. That's one of the purposes of the physical world, that it's possible to make mistakes, and mistakes, it gives us disharmony in our life, so we can actually experience some darkness. And we need that to get this contrast and get our consciousness renewed. So what is happening here is basically that we start to develop into the physical world again. And in the beginning, we are minerals. Later on, we become plants. We start to have an awareness of what is going on the physical plane. And later on here in the orange part of the symbol, we become animals, and we actually have a full consciousness on the physical plane. But in the animal kingdom, we actually take advantage of other. We create disharmony for other, and at some point that will return to us. That's what we call karma, and that's also part of Martinus' world picture. But this karma comes back to us, and we start experiences this disharmony that we were longing for at some point. We got the ability and talents to actually create it, and at some point we get all this disharmony. That's what we see right now to a large extent in our lives, and we get saturated by that as well. And what happens, and what is happening right now to us, is that we get saturated by the dark, and we start longing for a harmonious life situation. So that's where we are right now. We are starting to unlearn the talents to take advantage of other people and start to live in a more harmonious and light way of living, and that is serving other people. So the gist of this is that we keep on living in this circular way. You can say that sounds really, really bad, right? Because that's an eternity and we go back and forth. But the point here is that we keep going forward for something that we really want. We keep leaving the things we don't want behind us, and we have something to look forward to all the time, something we're longing for, something we really want. And that's how the eternal life works. That's the plan, according to Martinus. So this might challenge your thinking, this that Martinus explained, that we can actually become saturated with both light and darkness. I know that you're probably thinking, why would anyone ever want to leave a state of light and harmony? It seems counterintuitive. It seems kind of stupid in a way. But let me give you an example to consider. In an eternal existence, even the most beautiful experiences would eventually become kind of ordinary. They will become boring. You will become tired of it. Martinus describes how this happens in the higher spiritual realms that we'll all eventually reach. Imagine experiencing every possible aspect of light and harmony. At some point, you naturally begin craving contrast. Just as we can't truly appreciate warmth without knowing cold, or sweetness without knowing sour, our eternal consciousness seeks these contrasts. Our eternal consciousness only exists due to these contrasts. So this hunger for contrast is what drives us to experience darkness, not as a punishment, but as a natural part of our eternal journey. It's like listening to our favorite song on repeat. Eventually, no matter how much you love it, you need to hear something different to maintain, let's call it the magic of the first song, the magic of your life. Now let's bring this cosmic perspective down to earth and talk about where we are on this eternal part. Again, we can look at symbol number 11, and as I showed you, we are in what Martinus called the animal kingdom. We are at the end of the animal kingdom, and we are moving or developing into the real human kingdom. We are currently at a fascinating turning point. The transition from what Martinus calls the animal kingdom to the real human kingdom. But these aren't physical places. They are states of consciousness, ways of being and thinking that fundamentally shape how we interact with the world around us. In the animal kingdom consciousness, we primarily live for ourselves. Animals must kill to survive. It's simply their nature. As humans, we are gradually moving beyond this. We are learning to need less and less from other beings for our living. But this evolution doesn't happen overnight. It requires experience, understanding, and more importantly, practice. We need to learn not to live for ourselves, not to take advantage of other living beings, and start to serve other living beings. It's a fundamental change. It's a 180 degrees turnaround for us. So it's really difficult, but it helps if you know what is going on. So right now, humanity in this remarkable transition. We are moving from a consciousness that often creates darkness through our action, what some traditions call karma, towards something profound, a state of being where we naturally serve and uplift other living beings. This is what Martinus means by the real human kingdom. Think of it like learning any other skill. Just as we weren't born knowing how to read or write, we are learning the art of neighborly love, the ability to care for and support all living beings around us. Not just other humans, but all living beings, animals, even plants. Martinus also talks about minerals and even all the living beings that lives in our body. This is our current challenge, our current path, become real human beings. But here's a broader perspective to consider. In the grand eternal circle, all of this, both light and darkness, serves one simple purpose: to experience life. Every moment, whether harmonious or challenging, adds to the rich tapestry of our eternal journey. Find this perspective both humbling and inspiring. But what do you think? How does this idea of eternal alternating between light and darkness resonate with your own experiences? Can you find any examples in your life that actually match this idea? Something that we all see. I can give you a few examples. We have our day-to-day thing. We have night and day. It's a circular thing that goes between the light of day and the darkness of the night. We have the year. We have the summer that is lighter than the darkness in the winter. So please share your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be happy to hear what you think about all this. And if you have any questions, please ask them as well. It's both simple and quite difficult to grasp in some ways. So if you are intrigued by these concepts, there's much more to explore. In the future video, we'll dive deeper into other aspects of Martinus's worldview, what he also called the eternal world picture, and what this channel is named by. So please hit subscribe to join me on this journey of understanding, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to stay updated. I'm also learning, so I hope you will join the journey. Thank you for coming along for these profound ideas with me in this video. And until next time, keep exploring the mystery of existence. Finally, thanks for watching.